as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of challenges. One of the biggest challenge is ourselves. We're all wired a little weird. We're a little different from the rest of the world. I mean, I don't know if you noticed that, but I certainly noticed it. And many of my friends have actually pointed it out, and my spouse as well. And one of the things that we can do is we can understand ourselves, and by understanding ourselves, be even more productive in our businesses, or we cannot and create tremendous disruption, not only in our businesses, but our relationships. Today, I have a remarkable entrepreneur, a psychologist, just an amazing individual who's helped me a lot. One of the things that, we all talk about being in the flow and the power of meditation, but being a small town boy from upstate New York, I'm in California now, but small town boy, I didn't like any of this soft stuff. I never understood meditation, but our next guest taught me meditation through gunpoint, at gunpoint. And it was really amazing. And it's really made such a difference in my life, in the life of so many of my fellow entrepreneurs. I wanted to have him join us. And he's got a new book coming out called Driven with his partner, Randy Kelly. And these two guys have just made such a difference in my life that I wanted to have them come and share their message with you so you can accelerate your success even more. I'm John Bowen, co-founder of AES Nation. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this remarkable...
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Doug, I'm just thinking, first of all, thank you for coming. I mean, I had never meditated more than 10 minutes at a time. And I was out in the San Diego desert with you with rifles and pistols and a whole bunch of other fellow entrepreneurs. And you and your partner, Randy, taught me an awful lot. And I want to share this message. You've got this new book coming out, and it is all about my fellow peers, entrepreneurial peers. And so thank you for being of such service to our group.
I greatly appreciate being on and having an opportunity to share what I got going on. So anything I can do to help.
Well, and so let's take a step back here. One of the things that is, as entrepreneurs, I started in the introduction, we're all a little wired weird, and it's not unusual for many of us, we'd never admit it to our drinking buddies and friends, to visit an office of one of your peers along the way and try to get a handle on all this. And I know you've had a very successful practice in San Diego, and you've kind of evolved on how you're serving entrepreneurs and helping them to be even more focused. And before we go into kind of how how do we do it? What are the key things we do, the life lessons? I'd love to hear the backstory.
Okay. Yes, right after you met me, so I've known you, about 18 months, little less than that. I had no idea how big the world was. So I've been hiding out literally in this office for about the last 15 years, almost exclusively working with entrepreneurs and the highly driven, very, very driven people. And I had my first website 18 months ago. And so here it is 18 months later. So needless to say, my world's about to explode, I hope. But backstory. So amazing time to be a psychologist. Actually, I have 2 PhDs, a PhD in clinical psychology and also a PhD in organizational business psych. So I started working in the business world from the get-go. And I'd go from the most touchy-feely BS clinical psychology, give me a hug crap classes into real-world business classes, at UCSD, and just the contrast between the real world and this touchy-feely psychology world was staggering. And so from the get-go, I noticed that, hey, maybe I don't fit into this as well. And then 2 primary inventions happened, or things happened over the last 20 years. One is they cracked the human genome, So I always suspected I was different, and the population I've been drawn to about who I work with is different. We are different, and yes, John, you are very different. Um, and
I have
we are
had my
different.
genome sequenced by the guy who did crack it, Craig Ventnor, and he's
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
to me
yeah.
personally and told me I am weird. So I agree.
Yes, you have different dopamine. We have a different reward system is the main difference. They used to call it the addiction gene, alcoholism gene, and all these different names for it, but it's one of the primary things that we're different. And so the other thing they've done is the functional MRI. So not only are you genetically different, your brain is actually wired differently. So about 10% of the population is different. I used to call it the entrepreneurial mind. Um, Driven mind is kind of a little bit different because a lot of us aren't, just solely entrepreneurs. So, um, and finally, about 18 months ago, got my shit together and decided to write a book with the urgings of my new business partner, Randy Kelly.
No, it's been so interesting. I think watching the two of you develop. We're in a mastermind group together. Jason Gennard's Mastermind Talk, and Jason was the one that first introduced me. And Jason was kind of funny. He goes, "John, have you ever meditated?" And I go, "I've never really done it consistently." And he goes, "You would you be comfortable?" Because he had never, I don't think he had even fired a
He
gun.
had never fired a
Yeah.
gun and never had meditated. Really, he's tried it, and most people, like I was saying, 90% of the meditations out there are not for us. They're designed by a different type of person.
Well, and
So
I had grown up, in upstate New York, and hunting was a big thing. So I have plenty of guns, and now I'm married to an animal rights person, so I have a lot less guns and don't shoot things too often. But I love marriage. We're just about ready to celebrate our 37th year. So the idea, of this, when Jason started telling me about what you were doing and how you were doing it, it was really enticing. And I want to come to that, but I want to go to, as you built this up and you're helping all these entrepreneurs, one of the things that when we got talking about this is something that we all tend to do, and it's driven individuals. I don't want to limit it to just entrepreneurs, but that's primarily who our audience is that we're driven, and being so driven, we can get into this problem of self-sabotaging. I mean, I don't know how many stories we have of things blowing up along the way needlessly, and maybe Doug, touch on that. What you're seeing both in your practice and now in your new business. How can we prevent that? Because that's not fun for anybody.
So that was my doctoral research, was self-sabotage and self-fulfilling prophecy. So human beings, despite what our monkey mind tells us, we are not driven towards safety and better. What we're actually driven towards is the familiar. And so when our world becomes rapidly different, like if you win the lottery, 5 years later, your family hates you and you're basically bankrupt. And that was what I was really looking at in the mid 90s in my dissertation. Like, why does this happen? Why do people, have everything going for them and then tear it all down? And in the last 15, 20 years, all of the functional MRI research and the way the body and the brain actually interact together has explained it. And that's one of the things I'm so pumped about this, shooting meditation, is that when I put you behind the gun, it actually puts the issue right in your face, literally. That, here I am and I'm going to shoot something, but then I have resistance and I have this fight within myself. And who are the two of us fighting in there? And that is the insight that's needed to stop doing this stuff. And
Yeah.
so
No,
understanding that we're different and understanding that, who is the one actually in control of me. And that is, once you can get that and experience it, then you can really apply the meditation to it.
Yeah, because we all have those voices. I mean, there's no question that we have those voices, and we can make a decision to kind of follow where they're going, which is usually not the right thing to do. Is I always find that, and you've taught me some of this, is, to honor that voice, but really then focus on, what the mission at hand. And what to see, I had grown up, shooting, hunting a bit, but I'm 61. I probably hadn't really, other than a few friends dragging me out skeet shooting once every 10 years, hadn't fired a gun in, 30 years, 40 years. And, coming out and seeing what you're capable of going through this process of really getting focused. And, if I had just picked up the rifle and, laid down to do the distance shot, and my mind would have been going all the things, and I'd be lucky to hit the hill, let alone the target. And it's just so amazing as an entrepreneur that we get caught up, Doug, so often on this. We're on this journey, all of us together, and as we start having success, so often we question ourselves. I mean, that's that wiring. And what are some of the things that you see, on the, kind of, if we want to have, use this wiring successfully, on the sabotage, avoiding that, how does that come together more? How can we stop that? Because, these many of us are thinking, our teammates, our spouses, our significant others, we drive them crazy with what we're doing.
So, yeah, some basic biology and this simple question about who's really in control of you or who's really in control of me. And we have two operating systems, one below our nose. And the classic metaphor is that we are very much like an Indian elephant with a whole bunch of monkeys up on top with little sticks trying to control this elephant. And this is why it sucks in January at the gym, is because the monkeys seem to be in control of the elephant. And they're beating the shit out of it, and they're go to the gym, do this, do this, do this. Come February, March, April, the elephant seems to have a life of it or a mind of its own. And the resistance to going to the gym, no matter how much the monkey mind beats the crap out of you, you ain't going. And that insight that there's two of me in here, and actually that's a trick question, because which one are you, the monkeys or the elephant? The simple answer is both and neither. And everyone kind of pauses on that neither piece, because it's the insight that I can hear the monkey mind chattering and then also feel the impulsive elephant. And that's why I love that gun, because when you got the gun on your shoulder, the elephant doesn't want to pull the trigger, and then this thing's off somewhere else. But, the concept of flow, which you've mentioned a couple of times, is when the split between the monkeys and the elephant goes poof. And you become all three, basically the observer and the neocortex and the reptilian all become one and connected to what's happening in the outer world. And so you get into that flow state, and part of our genetics and part of our wiring, we love it. Anything that brings us into that flow state, we get addicted to, and we are just driven for it. Problem with that is when we're going this way, we can't do all this other stuff around us. So until that gets loud enough, we come out of that flow state, and then we go, oh crap, what about my wife? So it's this ability to actually go in and out of that flow state is really what I've been teaching for the last 15 years, and that it's not something that we have to get into a video game or, get hyper-focused on some spreadsheet. It's really a natural way of being, and that is meditation. And
I found that to be so useful, Doug, that the ability to get in the flow and to really, that your productivity, your enjoyment, everything else just goes up so much. And as an entrepreneur, what more can we ask for? Is to, have higher productivity, love what you're doing, and you don't need drugs and alcohol. That's not bad.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's, I'm not a proponent of balance. I think balance is, as I always say to all my clients, balance is a nice 10 seconds a year when I have it. And, they're not all in a row. I get 2 seconds here and 5 seconds, but I know that I'm out of balance. And then I'm gently coming in and, paying attention to my wife and my kids and my life. And, and I'm moving between those, in and out of that balance state, just so I'm conscious and aware of it.
Well, I call it harmony. What you do, the way you teach it, is that we're never going to have balance. Everything's not going to be perfect all the time, and so on. But have harmony. We're going to kind of flow with these things, and it never works to the level I'd like. And one of the things I want to ask you about is, as entrepreneurs, we want to be very successful. We hold ourselves out as these successful individuals. And so many times in the back of our mind, we're feeling some shame and doubt along the way. Are we really up to it? I mean, are we really that? Are we doing what we should be doing? Geez, we're not quite there yet, and and then shame on some of the things. Maybe a failure along the way. This gets so in the way of kind of moving forward.
Well, that is our genetic gift and our curse, is that the dopamine receptor sites, and I don't want to get all sciencey on you, but very simply, we're wired to feel like there's always something missing or wrong. Or another way of saying that is we're wired to feel like the world or ourselves can always be better, and that propels us to great heights. And as long as we are believing that there's a shiny thing off waiting for us on the horizon, we'll run at it and run at it and run at it and run at it, well beyond anyone else. But, if we don't achieve, or actually when we do achieve, the reward is never quite there. It always feels like we could just do something a little bit better. And I get people in my office. What gets you in a psychologist's office faster than anything else is feeling like there's something missing or wrong, but then you create an identity out of it. There's something missing or wrong with me. And, entrepreneurs, we, can be somewhat narcissistic, or believing that we are needing to prove ourselves all the time. And, I've got the Lambo and the hot chick and everything else, but I still feel like there's something missing or wrong. And that is our gift and our curse, but it's not real, or it's our wiring. It's not us. And it'll never go away. Life can always be better, and that's I close all my retreats that I do with you guys with I hand out that book Mastery by George Leonard constantly, because it is this life of mastery that I do believe entrepreneurs or people with our genetics are just gifted for, and it is we're in a constant state of improvement for every area of our life.
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey, and I do remember reading that book, over 20 years ago, I think, and it's timeless. It's a book that everybody should read once a year, just because we are on this life journey toward mastery. But one of the things that you make a big deal about, and this is where I think we're aligned on everything. But this is one I feel really important, is finding your own wolf pack to hang out with. And I'm a big believer in mastermind groups. I spend over $100,000 a year I got to pay to be in my wolf packs, but I have some that aren't. I got my senior team. I bring them out regularly, and we're staying at the resort next to my house, and they're flying out tonight. And I just I have different wolf packs, but it's just, you need that, because so many of my friends aren't entrepreneurs, and they don't. They're actually great friends and certainly family, but they don't get me.
No, and that is a good chunk of this book is dedicated to that. And the way I describe it in the book is there's two different kinds of people on this planet. Most people are wired much more like gazelles, and when a cheetah runs into a herd of gazelles, what do? They scatter, and it's basically good luck and you're on your own. What happens with a pack of wolves when a bear attacks one of the wolves is they all come together. And the basic theory that I propose in the book is that the hunting genetics, that entrepreneurs and our genetics are really based on the very old genome designed to live in a much scarier, harder world. And so we had to rely on each other for survival, where the farmers, those acclimated to becoming a farmer, had grain silos, and they all worked together and really loved that W2 9 to 5 routine, which 99% of people listening and all of my clients, pencil in the eye before they tolerate that. But because of that, we're wired for a different world. And so we really do need to seek out those. And you go into those mastermind groups, 100 people in a room, and it's, an ADD, just a soup of energy and a soup of people, and we love it. It just feels like we're finally home.
Yeah,
So
no,
I couldn't. It's not a choice. I mean, we have to find that.
if you're not a member of a mastermind group, that's one of the easiest, or CEO group. It could be YPO, could be EO, could be Vistage, could be Mastermind Talks with Jason Gennard or Dan Sullivan, strategic coach. My partner, Russ Prince, and I are actually doing a big study right now on mastermind groups. And, what we're seeing is, I know this, Doug, isn't going to surprise you at all, is that there's those people. Actually, I didn't know your book. I'm looking up because I've got the screen above me. Is your book, and Driven, and we were calling it initially. The working title was The Driven Entrepreneur, because they're self-selecting, finding their wolf pack, and they're when they come out of it. I came out of the mastermind talks with 38 action items that I was going to do.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and it is so relieving for a lot of my clients when they walk into my office and explain this stuff to them, and the light bulb goes on as, oh my God, you've just explained the last 25 years of my life. But we go out with our friends, those that don't have our wiring, and even they look at us like we're crazy, and we're not. We are supposed to be this way, and no matter what you do, you're going to be wired this way and stay this way. And so it is that self-acceptance, but then we've got to find other people that think like us and act like us and normalize us.
So help me out and help out our listeners and our viewers here, our fellow entrepreneurs. One of the things that we're looking at doing is, you're a big believer in meditation.
Yep.
And, we've already agreed that we've got this wiring. It's not bad wiring. It is our wiring, and it's what makes us who we are. And, I feel like I get to enjoy life, fully. The pencil, I'd use something bigger than the pencil on a 9-to-5 job. I couldn't do it. As a matter of fact, it's funny. I had one of the podcast interviews. I don't know if you remember Steve Sisler. I met at last year's one. He's a behavioral profiler, and Steve goes, John, I'll do a podcast with you, and it'll be kind of fun. I'll do you, and I'll walk you through. And he walked me through, and I had not seen it. He didn't share it with me until on camera. And it was just really interesting. And then we got off camera, and he goes, John, you're in the 2% that if you ever applied for an EVP or a C-level job in any of the companies I'm working with where I'm doing behavioral profile, they'd say, run from this guy. And it's just, they've gotten really good at finding us out. But one of the parts that I think is so important is this meditation and kind of putting yourself on the right path. And, how do you do it with, we've got our wiring, we're all over the place, we know the power of focus and flow and everything else, Doug. But how do we use meditation, particularly for some of the guys and gals who have tried it and not had success?
Yeah, and that is, I get that question a lot. So the most important part of a meditation practice, and I'll watch your face expression as I say this, is to keep it.
Yeah.
There it is to meditate every day no matter what. Because that literally what it does, it shows our self-sabotage in our face first thing in the morning. And so I start everybody out with literally, I got high-powered guys doing 1 minute of meditation every morning. And the monkey mind will very quickly, that's no big, no need to, it's not important.
Well, I don't have the time. I got too many things going on.
A guy like you, I would start with 1 or 2 breaths in the morning. I got guys spelling their coffee, calling it meditation, because it demonstrates who's really in charge of us. And it is this subconscious body that is overdriven. We are just driving constantly in a direction not of our own choosing. And so it's really reining that impulsivity in. And so what meditation, the classic styles of meditation, I go deeply into it in the book, is really learning to just be present. And for hunters, which is the hunter-farmer metaphor I shared earlier, we have something called occipital dominance, or visually dominant. we use our eyes to make sense of the world. And so these meditations that encourage you to close your eyes make us cuckoo. We close our eyes and try to relax, our heads explode because we are not
I know.
wired.
I love that you did this, Doug, because I would close my eyes and it's like, okay, how long is this gonna last? And what do I need to do? And they're guiding me through, and I got a million things and so on. And what I did like, I mean, and when we first started doing it, we were in a beautiful setting, nature and the whole thing, and getting focused wasn't hard to do.
Yeah, and that's focusing on what's happening in the present with your eyes open is meditation. And I mean, it's that simple. And I'm not going to talk crap about any apps out there, but there's a lot of apps that are wonderful, but they're not meditation. Those are relaxation training. Listen to my voice, and it's somewhat hypnotic, and they don't do anything to actually addressing our problem. The biggest problem I have, and as you said earlier, your problem, the biggest problem hopefully all of us have is ourselves. And catching myself sabotaging and drifting out of the present is meditation, and catching that and gently coming back. The more you're focused on the present, a byproduct of that is relaxation. And so, how do you relax shooting a target at 1,000 yards away, holding a 308 is, in the present moment, there is no recoil. And so the more present you are, the more focused you are, and the more focused you become, the more relaxed you become, and your efficiency just goes through the roof. I get every day I hear it, well, I don't want to give up my fear because it's the thing driving me forward. And no, your fear is actually pushing you forward, and it's pushing this impulsivity, and it is sabotaging you. If I give up my fear, I'm going to be lazy. No, if you give up your fear, you're going to become efficient. And efficiency over busy is what I preach. So
well, and what I found it to do for me, Doug, is I use a term, I don't know, we haven't talked about this before, but I call it quiet confidence. That instead of that fear, like I gotta go out and do it, and that anxiety and everything else, I'm in the moment. It's that quiet confidence that I know either that I'm capable, or my team, or I have relationships that are capable of making almost anything happen. And when you approach things from that perspective and you can stay focused on it, geez, that's a huge gift that you're given.
Yeah, and I call it in my book embodied emotional intention. And so when you're really feeling embodied with that emotion that, I'm just here to help you, or I'm just here to get this done, that sense of urgency, that sense of I need to do something goes away, and you're able to actually relax into that confidence that you're going to succeed. And not to get woo-woo, but that is manifestation.
It's so powerful. Let me put up on the screen your book, Driven, with you and Randy, and understanding and harnessing the genetic gifts shared by entrepreneurs and Navy SEALs, pro athletes, and maybe you. And if you're listening to this podcast, it is you. Tell me what they're going to find in the book.
So it's really a how-to, just enough understanding, and I cut out all the neurobiology as much as I could. So you need that understanding about why we're different to build this logical container that first you're a monkey, we're all a bunch of animals, and that narrative running in your head is not you. Then, to catch that impulsivity, and then it gets into meditation. The last half of the book is really about mastery and how to apply this meditation principle to, I call them the 6 F's: friends, family, fitness, finance, fun, and faith. And so it's really looking for and experiencing, as you would call it, harmony or balance. You never get it, and it's something we're working towards the rest of our life.
Yeah, I always think we're working on perfection, but none of us are going to be perfect, and certainly none of us are going to be, the full mastery. This is a lifelong journey.
Exactly.
Let me go to resources, and one of the things I want to do is I'm going to pull up your website, Highly Driven Life. And it's just and we'll have all the links at AES Nation above me here, aesnation.com, the transcript, and links for getting the book and the website. I mean, these are just so important assets. But tell us about what's on the website and how my fellow entrepreneurs, your fellow entrepreneurs, can work with you to really accomplish what we've talked about.
Yeah, great. Like I was saying at the beginning of this, 18 months ago, I didn't have a web page, didn't need one. My phone's ringing off the hook, and I just, kind of been doing a one-off thing. Met Jason, and he came out and did one of my meditation shooting things and says, "What are you doing? There are so many people out there that need you." And, literally pulled me out of this office and drug me into this. So, rather than one-to-one, I'm going one-to-many and developing a lot of amazing content on the webpage. And we do retreats. We do 1 day, 3 day, 5 day shooting meditation retreats where you experienced a 2 day where we're doing the rifles and the pistols, mm-hmm. and it's basically meditation and shooting, and a lot of insights and a lot of getting to know yourself, so to speak.
It was a great experience. I would encourage people that if you are, thinking that you might benefit from being more productive and having that quiet confidence, that embodying the what did you call it, Doug? The
embodied emotional intention. So it's really my intention, and it's if my intention is not to hurt my wife or get her pissed, and I'm really clear on that, no matter how hurt and pissed she is, I don't have to defend myself. So it's that, and it's a very, very, very powerful tool.
It really is. And this is, one of the things here at AES Nation we want you to do is to be even more successful. So let me wrap it up here on what I call key takeaways. And there's just so many. I mean, first of all, you are weird. You were wondering, we are all weird. And as entrepreneurs, you're a small percentage of the population where, some people would say wired wrong. I'm going to argue wired to really embrace life. But we've got to recognize how we harness it. And we've got to, as Doug talked about, and I definitely, pick up the book at a minimum, look at this, read the transcript again, or watch the video, share it with your friends. Stop self-sabotaging. I mean, it's just, we need to recognize those voices and the shame and doubt that we all experience. This is, that of course we do. I mean, that's what we're wired to do. And how do we deal with it? And particularly one of the most important things is finding your wolf pack. That this group of fellow entrepreneurs that you want to go on this lifelong journey with. I mean, it's so powerful, and they can help you so much along the way. And then I'm going to go to the meditation. Doug, is just phenomenal, and it really makes a difference. And it's one of those things you can go back to for the rest of your life every single day to help you create that focus. Doug, I want to thank you again for sharing your message and really making a difference for fellow entrepreneurs. Go out, get the book in your own enlightened self-interest, and with that, remember your clients, your future clients, and your family and your friends are all counting on you to execute on this. Go make a difference. We wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.